Did you call him Elend?
I think I called him Elend at the beginning.
Yeah, Kaylee called him Elend too.
And then you were like, it's actually Elend. What's up? We are back. We are gonna. What is this? This is episode 2 of The Lost
This
in
is
the
episode
Cosmere.
2? Yes. We are definitely doing these one after the other. This is 100% episode 2. We have not done anything since the Mistborn episode.
You'll see him at some point. But yes, this is episode 2 of Lost in the Cosmere.
That's right.
What are we talking about today, Luke?
Today, we are going to be talking about Brandy Sandy's first published book, Elantris.
Oh, Elantris.
Yeah,
all right.
So that was his first published book. I think he had like 6 other unpublished books. And Elantris was the first one that somebody looked at and was like, we can sell that thing. So,
the man has a sauce.
So regardless, a lot of people say Elantris. I don't think anybody says it's a bad book, right? But in the community, a lot of people say that when it comes to his books, this one is like probably the lowest rated, the lowest quality rather. Like his books get much better as he progresses as a writer. Like Mistborn, we talk about in the first episode. It's really a different league from Elantris.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I've heard, and what I had heard kind of going in, which is kind of when I wanted to knock it out relatively early. But I mean, I didn't think it was going to be bad.
No, and so I guess we can say, starting with a little non-spoiler review, what did you think of Elantris? Did you think it was bad? Did you think it was great?
So,
what was your rating?
Overall, non-spoiler, I would say, out of all Cosmere things I've read, it's my least liked thing.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I don't think it's bad, but I definitely feel like it's weak in a lot of places. You can tell that it's his very early stuff. But I don't think it's bad. I just think it's I don't think it's paced well. I think.
Yeah, I don't think the pacing is exactly great either. Mm-mm. And I would say it's probably his weakest Sanderlanche of any of the books. Oh, I guess we should say we're also going to be talking about the Emperor's Soul.
Yes, we are talking about Emperor's Soul.
We'll also talk about Emperor's Soul. And Emperor's Soul, I don't actually know when that book came out. I think it was a few novels after Elantris. Regardless, it takes place on the same world of Elantris, so we will also be talking about it. And that is a much better piece of writing. Again, not that Elantris is bad, but we'll start with Elantris. So
yeah,
you just read it, non-spoiler review. You didn't hold it up to the same standards as Mistborn. Did you think it was you didn't think it was awful though, right?
No, I didn't think it was awful, but man, there was some days when I was reading it that it felt a little bit like a trudge to kind of get through.
There are definitely those sections of reading when you just have a day of full reading where you're just like, man, it really hasn't been that great. And then other days it's up to the standard of, oh wow, this is why I love Brandon's fantasy and his style of writing.
Right.
But yeah, there are those days for sure.
Yeah. So I guess now that we'll get into spoiler territory. What do you want to go over first? We want to go over likes,
so I think we can
dislikes,
talk about,
I guess we can talk about things.
Yeah, we can talk about things. If we're going into spoilers, I think we can talk about the POVs. There's 3 main POVs in this book.
Mm-hmm.
Raoden, Hrathen, they all have weird names. And then is it Serene? Serene.
Yeah.
Serene. He's read this book more recently than I have, so.
Yes.
It's Raoden though, not Raoden.
Yes, it's Raoden. I don't know. I read it. I didn't have the audio.
I listened to it. They're weird names regardless. These are some of his weirdest names other than Stormlight names, which are weird in their own right. But
Yeah.
this is definitely he had fun with the naming conventions. I think
Yeah, I was gonna say because
for
if you look at like
Elantris.
if you look at Mistborn, you know the pronunciations could be pretty close. I could see somebody calling Sazid or
Yeah,
Kelsier,
yeah,
but
yeah.
not
Vine.
well, not that one. Um,
Veen.
I mean, fun fact: my mother was calling Elend for a hot minute.
Elend. Kaylee called him Elend. Did you call him Elend?
I think I called him Elend at the beginning,
Yeah, Kaylee called him
um,
Elend too.
and then you were like, "It's actually Elend."
It's Elend Adventure, not Elend.
Um, but yeah, I don't think you get a pass when it comes to Elantris.
I think you get a pass for all of his books. He has weird names in all of his books, but
That's
specifically
true.
Elantris and Stormlight have some weird ass names.
Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna go through our favorite characters because your
Okay.
favorite character is
Yes.
different from mine.
Yes. So
So I'll go
just
through
to
mine.
say, mhm,
Um, Unbeknownst to all of you, we just had technical difficulties. So my favorite character is Raoden. Um, I think I like him a lot. I think it's very interesting how simple of a character he is. I guess in the grand scope of all the Cosmere. Um, and I was thinking about it today because I don't want to say which Cosmere book I'm reading, but it was the same kind of thought. But what I find very interesting is that at least the archetype Cosmere character for me is Kelsier, and I almost compare like a lot of the characters to him and like just how he matches up with them. And Raoden is just like the standard fantasy man. Like
yeah.
he's just the guy. He's
Mhm.
working through his problems the whole time.
Yeah, he's the classic fantasy hero. He's like a little charismatic too. He's super friendly to everybody. Like he just wants to help people. He has an upbeat attitude for everything, especially given his situation in the book, which
True.
a lot of people would not have an upbeat attitude about.
Nope.
Raoden stands out in that regard. Yeah, he's just a
Yes, he's
classic fantasy hero, I think.
yeah, he's the classic fantasy hero with the plucky sidekick, Galadin. Galadin?
Yeah,
Galadin.
yeah, Galadin, I think.
Um, well, we can't say I think
I think it's Galadin.
it's Galadin. We're gonna go with that. If we're
Spell it.
wrong,
I don't.
I don't know.
Uh,
Yes, I liked his POV because I think it was I don't know. I guess it was the the putting in the work aspect of it. There wasn't a lot of fighting on
no, yeah,
his
really.
end,
Throughout the entire book, he does very, very little
but
action, if at
nor
all.
nor is it any of diplomacy, fighting with
Yeah.
words.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Um, it was kind of just I don't know, fighting an unseen battle
Yeah, he
in
was fighting
total.
against the situation,
Yeah,
the hopelessness, really, of all the people
right.
that
So it was that was unique.
suffered from the Sheod.
Yes, the Sheod or the and
Sheod.
and don't get hit with the Hoed.
Yeah, the Hoed.
Um,
Oh my
but
gosh.
yeah, I thought Raiden was really cool, and I think adding that to the setting, I think it definitely yeah, it just I think he came together pretty well. But it's really
Mhm.
hard to kind of I guess talk about him because he's just kind of simple. So yeah.
Yeah, no, he is a. I think he's a really good character. He's solid through and through.
Hmm.
Do you want me to talk about my favorite character now,
Yeah, let's
or
yes
okay?
go through
So
your
my
little
favorite character in the book was Hrathen. All of his
big shot.
POVs I absolutely loved. I thought it was so interesting because I thought it was really interesting that we got the POV of an antagonist
Agreed.
because Hrathen was an antagonist. And it's not that we don't get POVs from other antagonists in the theories, in other series, right?
Hmm.
Like there's some other books where like antagonists will get short POVs here and there throughout the book. right?
Right.
But Hrathen
In
is a
depth.
main character. You know,
Yeah.
he's one of the three main point of views in that book,
Hmm.
and I thought it was so interesting to see where he was coming from, and the entire religious fanatical aspect of his character was just so interesting to me. To see this guy
Yes.
that was basically like, I am doing this. I need to convert these people to Judirith because if I don't, they will all die, right?
Right.
As seen by what happened before,
Yeah.
right? Like, so in his twisted, sick and twisted way, right? Because
Hmm.
Judirith is a fucked up god that they worship, right? It's a messed up religion, as discovered later with the creepy ass bone magic they use, right?
Right.
Um, as fucked up as it was, like he was doing it because he didn't want these people to die, right? Like he did not want to kill these people. He wanted them to live, right? He
Right.
didn't want that blood on his hands. And so it's like it's a little selfish, right? Because he doesn't want the guilt of them dying, right? But he also doesn't want them to die because he would feel guilty because he knows it's wrong, right? So he's converting them, trying to convert them to his religion for this really, weird, twisted moral philosophy he has. And then just
Yes.
the Jareth stuff in general, I found super interesting, as well as his struggle with like coming to terms with whether or not he truly believed or if it was just like a routine thing for him at this point. He was kind of having a crisis of faith throughout the book, where he was doing his sermons and his preachings, and people wouldn't listen, and he would be like, do I really have that passion for the faith anymore, or has this all become like work to me? Has have I just taken a scientific approach to this and been like, these are the things that get people to listen? Like he kind of struggles with not having any passion for the faith. And then a different character shows up. I forget his name. What is that character's name?
Uh
It's not Pilaf. That's a Dragon Ball character.
Delof.
Dilaf.
It's just yeah.
Dilaf, yes.
Yes.
And Dilaf is a complete fanatic, right? He is
Yes.
a crazy villain, and I love Dilaf, right? Because
Yeah.
at first it starts off as Hrathen and Dilaf, like Dilaf's
The
like
little
Hrathen is Dilaf's
henchman.
superior, right? Yeah, Dilaf is a
The back
henchman, and then
henchman.
by the end it turns out Dilaf was a big bad all along. Like he was higher up in the church than Hrathen even was.
Right.
And like Dilaf just had this fanatical passion for the way he spoke about his hatred of Elantrians and the worship of Judirith. And so watching Hrathen just struggle with his own beliefs and, this crazy ass dude that he was working with, I
Right.
found to be so interesting. And, because he is the villain, I just found that interesting too.
Yeah.
To get a
I
POV like that
yeah, I thought
from
it
a
was
person who really isn't a good guy.
agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely think yeah, it's a unique thing for him to do, especially that early on.
Mm-hmm.
I think uh in the Cosmere. So I thought it was really cool, and it was cool having almost like a twist at the end with Delof kind of being like
I
the
thought
big
that
bad.
twist was pretty good.
I thought, yeah, that was one of the few twists for me that I think was like, that's good. Um, and yeah, I thought his character was really cool. I think, yeah, the Crisis of Faith was really interesting,
Mm-hmm.
um, especially because, oh, you know what this is what the thing. One thing that I recognized about maybe towards the end of it, I think towards the end of his like the book with his POVs was that they kind of that it's revealed that he did love Serene the whole time. There's
Yeah,
kind of a little bit
he
of a
he
back and forth,
yeah, he
but
did
he
kind
did
of have like a one-sided love for Serene.
right, and I'm sure that played in part to his crisis of faith. But what I found very interesting about him was he was almost like a not evil completely.
Yeah, not
His
completely
methods,
evil.
yes, his methods were why he wanted to do it makes sense, but his
Hmm.
methods were not well put. But
Oh yeah.
he was almost like Judge Frollo from Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Oh, definitely. Yes. Yes.
Um, so, but not as evil,
No, Judge Frollo is like irredeemable, like
right?
a demon. Hrathen, like, yeah, despite his methods, Judge Frollo like wanted horrible things for people.
Right.
Like he wanted horrible things and he did horrible things to get those horrible things. Whereas Hrathen wanted good things and did horrible things to get those good things. What he
Yeah.
saw as good things, right? Like people joining the faith so they wouldn't die, kind of
Yeah. So
things.
I that's as Judge Frollo being one of the really
Yeah.
good Disney villains, I did really like this because it was just a little bit different enough.
Maybe Brandon watched Hunchback and then
Maybe he did.
that inspired him to write Elantris.
Brandy Sandy is a big Disney head. He's a Disney adult.
Yeah,
You
maybe
never
he
know.
knows the hidden Mickeys.
The hidden Mickeys are Hoyd.
Yeah, they're all wood.
Yeah,
That's so stupid.
that's what
Okay.
it is. And then the
Um,
final POV of Serene.
Serene. I honestly think Serene is probably the best character out of all of them. It's just she gets the most boring stuff to do,
Um,
honestly. Like I think
yeah.
she's
Oh,
not
yeah.
as complex as Hrathen, but she's not as simple as Raoden,
Correct.
right? But like and she's like super charismatic, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's really cool. She's like she's also kind of like that classic fantasy hero, right?
Yeah.
Which is perfect for Raoden, but she's got a little more depth to her. She
Agreed.
just gets she gets really boring stuff to do because she's in the castle the whole time. I
Yeah,
think
I
her kind of
think.
piecing
Yeah.
piecing together some of the mystery is interesting, but those scenes are so far and few between. Most of her stuff is political intrigue
Yeah.
within the city and working with that, and that just doesn't really click most of the time. Like her
No,
scenes with
most of it was
Raoden
like
are the
talking,
best, and yeah, exactly. Yeah.
and I mean, again, most of Elantris is actually kind of talking because, again, I had said there was not a lot of conflict.
No, the book is mostly dialogue between characters, which I think is really interesting. Um, I like that it's a slower book, you know,
Hmm.
um, because it lends more time to flesh out the world too, which I think Elantris has one of the most interesting worlds in the Cosmere. Like,
I would agree.
and maybe that's just because we know so little about it as well, because we only have the one book on it.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to be a major world in the Cosmere, and
Right.
you've only seen Elantrians in action for one book. Maybe that's a spoiler,
I guess
but
two.
yeah, Emperor Soul. But Elantrians are fucking powerful in the Cosmere, right? The
It
term
seems like a
invest,
really. I mean, it seems like a pretty like insane. It's the investiture, right? Whatever the power
yeah,
system is on the
the
planet.
term for the magic throughout the Cosmere is called investiture.
It just depends on what planet is what
Right. So
gets.
there's different names, but on the whole, the magic is investiture.
Yes.
Like the source of the magic energy, that's investiture,
Yes.
right? Um,
So, but their power system seems very complex and like insane, especially because if you go to Emperor Soul too, the fact that you can change something from like, I mean, I guess on the
mhm.
soul level,
So
but if you
so
want to get scientifical,
I've heard the power system of Elantris described as programming with magic,
yeah,
right? So like imagine like a basic Elantrian using all these symbols. So you write out a basic command, and then you can structure it with smaller commands and smaller commands and smaller commands and smaller commands to just constantly tweak the potency of whatever you're trying to do, right?
right,
So like you were literally just programming magical things to happen in reality. Like it's crazy, right? And then like you said, the magic in Emperor Soul, like the soul stamp magic.
Yes.
That's crazy ass magic too, right? You're
Right.
altering the souls of things with investiture. That's just insane. But what I was gonna say is Elantrians, right? Like throughout the Cosmere are known as highly invested beings. Like,
Oh,
right? So like
what does
people
that
like
mean?
people so like people are like, like there's certain races or groups of people in the Cosmere that are measured by like like you could create a scale and see like Elantrians are this invested versus like Mistborn are like this invested and Mistings are like this invested, right? Like how much
Oh,
investiture
magic. Okay.
is in them, right? So like obviously a
Yes.
Mistborn would be more invested than a Misting,
Yeah.
right? Because they can use fucking all the metals and a Misting can use one,
Right.
right? So Mistborn would obviously be more invested. Elantrians are pretty invested beings, like
Mm-hmm.
highly invested beings. And like that's just something I find really interesting is reading some of the blurbs like around the books talking about like how invested certain beings are or comparing it to certain beings. Like
Yeah.
there's a character in Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, for example, right, that is referred to as being as highly invested as an Elantrian, right?
Oh,
And
okay.
that's kind of like a hint to be like, oh shit, they have a lot of
They have a
fucking
lot of power.
magic, like
Right.
they have a lot of magic in them.
Well, so
So I
that
think
so
that's
what
a cool term. And
so
so
that's going
yeah,
to be
that's another thing.
interesting because like I don't even one of my criticisms for Elantris is actually that we don't really get in depth with the Aeon
With the
as
Aeon
much
ones, yeah.
as much. It's kind of like we kind of figure out how it works
Hmm.
somewhat, and then it kind of is just like, okay, now we got to finish up the plot and like be
Yeah,
done.
there's so much mystery left
Which
to
is
that
why,
magic system.
which is why I feel like, especially like Ember Soul helps because it adds a unique aspect to the magic system. But obviously, we know Brandon announced three sequels,
So I
a
think
second, third, and fourth.
I
At
think
least a
there's just
second
gonna be a
one.
second. There's gonna be a second and third Elantris.
Okay,
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a trilogy, which is
okay,
kind of like that's like how is he going to fit all of that into two books? I kind of hope they're like Stormlight length books, honestly, because Elantris is just a world I want to know so much more about,
right,
considering it houses some of the most powerful beings in the Cosmere, being Elantrians, right? Like that is a race of people that like are just straight up some of the most magically invested beings in the Cosmere, right? Like there are beings that like are powerful in their own right, but Elantrians
yeah,
are just straight up so innately magically powerful.
right,
And granted, it has to do with their proximity to Elantris, right? Like, because there's that scene at the end of the book. Remember when Raoden he like teleports to save Serene, right? And he's like not as
oh, that's
powerful
right,
because he's so far from Elantris. So
yeah.
like, there's that caveat, right? But without too many spoilers, there's always ways around shit like
I'm
that.
sure there is,
There's always ways around stuff like that.
right.
And there are certain characters that are smart enough to find them. So,
Hmm, hmm, hmm.
so like, you know, the fact that Elantris holds these beings that are so powerful in the Cosmere, like, and Brandon has said we're going to get two more books to complete this trilogy. Little worried you won't be able to fit
With
that much into those two books, but
yes,
I
but
feel.
with the new writing style,
Oh yeah, with the new
I'm
writing style,
sure I'm sure the second and third ones will be, I would say, a little bit more enjoyable.
definitely, I think yeah.
Um,
And that'll make for a weird trilogy though, considering how long it's going to take, like between the first book and two and three. It'll make
right.
for an odd change of it. Like somebody, what if somebody was just going into it being like, "Oh, let me read Elantris. It's a trilogy." It's like, oh boy, like
Yeah, but I mean
that could
that's the
be,
Cosmere in the first place, like anyway,
yeah.
though. Because I mean, isn't there like, are there some books you should like that aren't Stormlight that you should read in between Stormlight books besides the novellas?
Besides the novellas, I mean, you don't have to, right? Like I read them all back to back, including the novellas. I obviously read the novellas. Our one of our buddies is currently reading them all back to back.
Hmm.
Um, but like personally, like I feel like you should at least read like Warbreaker before the second,
Yeah.
before Words of Radiance. Like
I mean,
because
there's
Brandon loves
definitely.
his Easter eggs. Um, he loves his
I
Easter eggs.
Yeah, I think for like when everything's said and done, especially for things like Elantris, because again, we don't know like how the second one and third one are going to go, and if it is a trilogy, it's going to be weird, especially when you have something like Mistborn that was written back to back and
Right.
wasn't even released until basically they were all done. Um, that it'll be interesting to see if like we ever get a timeline and
Yeah, I
where.
mean, he has said before he's working on a timeline, but
I think
we
but he
need,
said that he wants to like he doesn't want to release it because he doesn't want to pigeonhole himself, which I
yeah,
agree with.
yeah, but we do need an official timeline at some point. Like you could find timelines out there that people
I'm
have made,
sure,
um, but we do need an official timeline.
right?
That would be helpful. Like
Yeah,
we know things for certain. Like this has happened before this, and this has happened before that. But again, an official timeline from
right.
Brandon would be very helpful.
But yes, I do like the power system in
Very cool.
Elantris. I definitely think as it will be coming up soon, but I have been also in between stuff reading Arcanum Unbounded that I can read. Um, so we will have that
We'll
soon,
talk about
minus
that. I
Edge
think we could talk
Dancer.
about that along with the next book.
Yes, we can probably talk
Like
along
we
with
could
the next book that
include
we're
those
planning.
short stories. Yeah.
Yeah. But I would say, having the somewhat knowledge, I don't think it's the most fucked up planet, but it's one of them.
What is Elantris?
Cell.
Oh, Cell. Yeah, Cell is a. It's a messed up planet for sure.
It's not the
Um.
most. There's like two that come to mind that are
So,
not, are pretty bad.
well, sure. I mean, Roshar's bad in its own right too, with high storms rolling through it.
Oh, yeah.
Every every like week that just
Right.
decimate the land.
I guess that's
Um,
true.
and there's nowhere to go to escape them, right? Because it's
I
one
guess,
continent.
I guess
Every
where
planet
Rosh,
is messed up in its own right, right?
right, but where Roshar has like the nature is pretty fucked up, I would say Cell is fucked up in the people, which is even scarier.
Yeah, the people are like magically fucked up. Um,
Yes.
so I think Cell, yeah, Cell's just a really cool planet, right?
Hmm.
I think Cell's bigger than the average planet as well. I could be getting that wrong, but either
Which
way,
would make sense with Emperor Soul
there's a
because
lot
it's
of
in a
like
different kingdom.
the thing that's cool about Cell, right, is that we have one story in Elantris and then one story in Emperor Soul. Two stories that take place on the same planet, but are in completely opposite sides of the world from each other, or at
Right.
least in countries so far from one another that they barely know anything about the other. Which is just such a
Hmm.
cool thing that he really has not done in any other book so far. Is
No.
make like a ton of countries, right? And even if like Elantris didn't have a ton of countries, or sorry, excuse me, Cell didn't have a ton of countries, right?
Hmm.
Like that's still a little unique. Like the only other planet I can think of with like so many kingdoms on it would be Roshar, which has like a shit ton of kingdoms on
Right.
it. But again, that's one continent, whereas Cell is a vastly unknown world to us, right? Like
But
we
and
know
there's
of a few
clearly different
countries.
cultures
Yeah, we know of a few
with
countries and cultures
Shy,
named in Elantris. We know one country in
with Ember
with
Soul.
Emperor Soul. So
Well,
some
I guess so. We went over the POVs and then we went on a like theory rant, or I guess talking about the Cosmere rant.
we went on like a magic rant kind of
Do we
because we were
want to
talking about
talk
the
about
magic.
Emperor's Soul as well? Because we haven't
Do you
really
want to
talked about Emperor's Soul.
do you want to
Or
specifically talk about what do you want to talk about in Emperor Soul? You want to talk more about like that magic system because that magic system is really cool too. The
I
fact
don't
that
know. I mean, I
Cell
guess
has
yeah,
so many magic systems too is
yeah,
something I really love, right? So you have Elantrian magic, you have the bone magic
yes.
from
The Dark Horror.
Yeah, the Dark
That's
Core,
a
the bone
bad
magic, right?
name.
You have like the dancing magic from that one side character whose name I can't remember. But remember,
Shooting.
like yeah, he would do
Oh,
like those movements, that
stop.
dancing, and
I gotta
like
go on a rant. He needed more screen time. That's
yeah,
bullshit that Shooting didn't
I
get
know.
any screen time. You want to know who my one of my favorite characters? Shooting, and he didn't get like any screen
I
time.
agree. I agree, which is why I really like want the second one to pick up with the same characters because like I want more of them.
I
I
agree.
want more of Raiden and Serene and Juden because like he didn't get enough screen time.
Yeah, I
But
feel
what a
like all the
cool like
side
magic
characters didn't
system too.
fully get.
Yeah, what a cool character and what
So,
a cool magic like power that he has. That like
oh
is
yeah,
only like kind of hinted at, right? Because it's like he seemed more powerful when he was doing his movements, and it's like
yeah,
we're not idiots. Obviously, that's some kind of different magic system based on his different culture. So the fact that so many magic systems in on Cell are based on the culture,
yeah.
really cool. So you have
That's
bone
cool.
magic, Elantrian magic, dancing magic, right?
Stamp
You have
magic.
soul stamp magic, and then the blood magic from the antagonist, like the guy that was
Oh,
like
and Emperor Soul.
holding Shy like prisoner.
Oh, what were
Like it
they
wasn't him, but
called?
he was like responsible.
It was
What
like
what was
it
the
was like a
name?
it was like a race though.
Yeah, I don't remember. I just remember it was like it was like some kind of blood magic, right?
Ugh.
But like so
Either
like
way,
that's five magic systems on one planet.
and they're all
That's cool as
and not
fuck.
only that, but it's not just like I love Scadrial,
Three magic
but
systems. Not
but
five, three.
but they're just three magic systems, and then like they almost have like different. It's just the metals. Like that's all. That's the
Right.
only difference.
Yeah, all three
But this
magic
is like
systems are based around
full
those metals,
blown.
right? These are like five different unique magic
Unless
systems.
there is something that is binding
Maybe
them all
other than
together, and we
well,
just
I
don't know about
mean,
it.
obviously something binds them all together because I think they mention it at the blurb before the Emperor Soul, like when it's like the cell system, and
Yeah.
then it's that blurb of Triss talking about Cell, with her notes. So she mentions that two shards actually died on Cell.
Okay.
Um, so two shards are dead on Cell, and that is where the magic comes from. It comes
Oh,
from
that's
like
right. I
the
did read Cell
remnants of
Devotion and
those
Dominion, I
shards.
believe.
Yes, Devotion and Dominion were killed and splintered. You'll learn more about what that means as you keep reading. But
Oh,
basically, they were killed and splintered on Cell. And in the cognitive realm, I'll also learn more about that as you keep reading.
I'm sure.
And that is kind of where the magic comes from. It comes from like the relative location of each place to where they were killed within the cognitive realm. It's very interesting.
Ah,
Bigger nerds than I will know more about it, and I want to hear about it. Like, if
true.
anybody knows more about this stuff than we do, like, comment, like, tell us about it. He won't read it. I will, because I need to
Yes.
make sure that he doesn't get spoiled. But I will
Put
read all
spoiler
about it. So
warnings.
please, yeah.
I don't know if YouTube has spoiler warning like things, but I think it does. But just
If it
I
does,
won't read
yeah,
it.
I'll read them first. Please let me know.
Yeah.
I love just learning more, like, because I like I said, I've read all the books, but there could have been stuff I missed or just haven't put together on my own because I don't know if you guys know, but there's a lot of these books. There's a lot of
And then
stuff.
Brandon just talks.
Yeah, and that okay. Can we
Side
cut
note.
talk? Yeah. Side note completely. The fact that half of what we know about the Cosmere comes from words of Brandon pisses me off, dude. Right?
We
Because
should
I
just
read
he
all the
should just
books,
write a
right?
book.
I should know all there is to know just from reading the books. The fact that I have to just know words of Brandon too,
He
that's too
should just
much.
write a
And the fact
book
that like
called Words of Brandon and just all right, Brandon.
compile it
Look.
all.
Look.
Yeah.
Brandon, I'm going to talk to your marketing team here. Are you listening? Okay, Dragon Steel people, are you listening? Great. I'm going to give you guys $1 million right now. Make a Words of Brandon book and just make the cover the same cover as Words of Radiance, but it's Brandon and not Kaladin on the cover.
Yeah, yeah. There you
I will
go.
take the check. Thank you.
Yeah, we take royalties. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that.
It is
Sometimes
quite
I
funny.
feel stupid. I lied when I said that's all I have to say about it.
Because
Sometimes
he
I feel
says
stupid
it.
when
He says it because he
when
knows
well
you're
when
gonna read it anyway.
right, but like I'm watching like the 17th Shard or something, and they're having a full 4 hour podcast about something that Brandon said in his most recent like interview, and I'm like, dude, like, is this gonna be in a book or not? Like I can't watch
I would think
every
so.
single interview he does, right? But like they talk about some like in-depth crazy shit, right? Like about how investiture works, and I'm just like, okay, I'm sorry, we can move on.
um,
We can move on.
we're gonna have a lot of those, ladies and gents. So stick
Yeah,
around.
those are gonna appear in like every single episode about
I
every
know.
Cosmere book.
Yeah, there's gonna be something.
Words of Brandon, man. Words of Brandon.
Um, but I
Emperor's Soul is really good. What do you think of Shy as a main character? Let's talk about that.
Shy is really dope.
Shy is really dope. I think
I like
she's
Shy a lot.
an
I
awesome character.
I know I went in depth with it with Vin. I like Brandon has a pretty good knack for some female characters. I would say that, and I
I agree.
appreciate it very much. I think he's one of the best in the business, personally. I'm going to go there, not naming names, but yes, I think he's one of the. He's really good with the female characters, and Shy is. I mean, she's really cool. I think she's got that good amount of snark.
Oh, she's snarky. I love the snarkiness. Yeah.
Um, and then just the unique aspect of she's like another completely different culture, and then she fucking stamps things and they become something different.
What I also love about Shy is she is one of the few characters we get in the Cosmere that is just 100% without a doubt, absolutely a master at their craft, right?
Yes,
Like when it
from the
comes
get
like
go.
we don't from the get-go, we do not get a lot of main characters or even characters in general that have a magic system and just absolutely have it mastered to the like finest degree,
But
right?
could you imagine if she's not even
Because
the master of that?
yeah, imagine if here's the thing.
Because we
Shy
don't. That
could
she's the
be
only one of that culture we know of.
right. Shy could be the best person at soul stamps in the entire Cosmere. But imagine if she's not. Now that's scary. If there's somebody
Right.
better at soul stamping than Shy is,
Exactly.
whoa, that's crazy.
I know.
Hell, here on my screen.
um, yeah. So I think she's really cool.
I love her. Yeah, I think she's a great character.
She's
Um,
yeah.
what do you
She's like
think
a
of the
little ninja with
story?
magic.
How do you like it being told in like a 90-day
A
period?
diary format
Yeah,
almost.
diary type
I
kind
guess it
of.
wasn't a diary because it's not from like it's not
It's not from her
me,
diary or from her thoughts,
but it's
but it
the
is
day.
told in like a daily. Not. It's not like there's 90 chapters and every chapter's a day, but it is
Hmm.
kind of cool told in that cycle. I thought it was really
Um,
interesting personally. I thought it
I
was a cool way to
thought
write it.
I think it's a cool way to pace it.
Hmm.
I think it makes you feel. I'm sure this is why it won the Hugo Award. Um, I think it makes you feel the time running out for her.
Definitely.
Um, because there's some chapters where it's just like a couple days have gone by and it's like did nothing major happened in those days clearly. And so especially as somebody who will work on stuff and it could take days, it's like, do you feel like that was a waste of time? It wasn't a waste of time, but it was like a
Hmm.
whole day of just the same thing. um and so I thought that was cool to kind of just give this like need for the reader to be like, oh god, is she gonna get it done?
Hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think the story being told in like every couple days was really cool. Um, I like Shy as a character. I like the pacing of that story. I like the end of that story. Um,
Yes.
I think that's really good. I guess we could talk about the beginning of that story if you want to like rewind back a little bit to how
Of
Shy ended
Empress.
up captured and who she was working with.
I actually don't remember.
You don't know? She was working with somebody, right, to steal like the staff
Oh
room or
wait,
something,
didn't I?
right?
Yes,
Do you
and
have? And then
she's working with the golden boy.
he backstabbed her and got her trapped, right? Did you have any idea who that was? Did you pick up on that
Yeah, the little shit ass
at all?
Hoyd probably.
Yeah. So Hoyd first appears in Elantris, right? It is
Yes,
literally
he is a
one
he
word.
is.
Hoyd appears
That's
once,
it.
and he is a
He is a beggar on the street, and he is cloaked. I think Serene runs into him, and he's like talking like an old man, but she can like see some of his features, and she's like, he does not look
Hmm. Isn't
that.
he the one like smuggling weapons for her? Like, isn't there
He
some
might have
plot
been
about like smuggling weapons? And I think it's Hoyd.
into Elantris,
Like,
yeah.
and yeah, and like it's just his name, and it's just Serene being like, "There's something weird about him,"
Yes.
and then he's not mentioned again.
Oh,
And
Hoyd.
then in Emperor's Soul, it's kind of heavily alluded to that Hoyd is the one that betrays Shy and gets her captured when they are trying to steal
What a little shitter, dude.
the staff, right? And so we talked about it. Did we talk about Secret History in the last episode?
We did not talk about Secret History in the last episode. We actually mentioned that we would be talking about Secret History. However, we didn't record that podcast. So it will be coming unless we want to talk about it now.
Did we never talk about Secret History in a podcast?
No. We had mentioned that we were going to do it next after Mistborn. Um, I have read
Should we
it.
talk about it? He's read it.
I
Should we
mean,
talk about it?
I don't think there's much to talk about with Elantris, so I feel like we can go ahead and just talk about that. And then yeah, okay. So let's talk about Secret History, and then we can combine everything, like all the short
Let's talk
stories and
about Secret
stuff,
History.
with the next one.
Um, Hoyt
So,
appears in Secret History too.
no shit.
And yeah.
Okay, cat's out of the bag. I don't want to say it loud because my mom hasn't finished Hero of Ages. But what the fuck? How the fuck is he alive?
So Kelsey's alive in Secret History. I like how we just were like, hey, we're gonna be talking about Elantris and Emperor's Soul this
Okay.
podcast, and now we're talking about Secret History. Which
But to be
it's fine.
fair, there's not much to talk about with Elantris because,
There's not much to talk about
this
with
is my biggest
Elantris.
criticism with it, is that it's a character study and that's about it. He doesn't really go in depth with it, which is not a bad thing.
That's not a bad thing, yeah.
But I feel like when the second and the third ones come out, I feel
We'll
like
have a
we'll get a little
lot
bit
more
more
to talk about. And we did talk a lot about the world and stuff. And
I think that's the biggest thing for it.
I think we kind of said what we wanted to about the characters. I mean, maybe minus Serene, but we both said how much we love Serene. She got really boring stuff to do.
So we need to talk about Secret History because I mean I'm gonna lose my fucking mind.
Okay, let's talk about Secret History since we haven't talked about it.
Okay.
Kelsier's fucking alive in Secret History.
He is.
It begins with him about to drift into that like faraway plane, right? And he's like, "No, I want to stay alive," and he like kind of bargains with Preservation, who is one of the gods of
the shards.
One of the shards, right? Of that planet, and Preservation kind of sees Kelsier's desire to preserve himself, and it kind of resonates with him a little bit. So he's like, "All right, I'll help you out," and he confines him to the Well of Ascension, where he will remain as a ghost, or if you will, for a little Cosmere terminology for you, a cognitive shadow. A cognitive shadow.
Okay, so I've heard a couple like trigger words.
Sure.
Every once in a while, right? Obviously, I'm reading Arcanum Unbounded also on the side a little bit. Do we get an in-depth explanation of the cognitive realm and stuff like that, or no?
Define in depth, right? Like that's the thing.
What the fuck it is?
dude, there's just so much to know about everything, right? So
Shit.
like you will have a much better understanding of what the cognitive realm is. Okay, let's say that. You will at some point.
Late better later.
Yeah, way better. Like later. Yeah. You will understand what it is much better. The books will tell you, they will explain what it is, right?
Okay.
They will explain what it is.
Okay.
Whether or not any of us even know if our understanding is complete yet or not remains to be seen, right? Like,
I assume based off of the name, it is what we can see and not the in between of the afterlife. So it's what normal people can see. That's what I assume.
mhm.
But
You'll learn more about it in Stormlight. All right, get
okay.
to what? Get to Words of Radiance.
Oh my god.
Get to Oathbringer. Yeah,
Okay.
get to Words, get to Oathbringer. By the time you're done with Oathbringer, you will pretty much be like, okay, yeah, that's what the cognitive realm
Gotcha. Okay. But anyway,
is.
so he's a cognitive shadow.
He's a cognate shadow. He's bound to the Well of Ascension, and he kind of talks and chats with Preservation um, throughout like books 1 through 3, which is kind of cute. you know, like you
Yes, I
know,
like their witty banter.
he calls him Fuzz.
Fuzz,
Um,
yes.
Preservation always has this kind of far away like
Haze.
expression whenever he's like talk like yeah he has this physical appearance of like kind of hazy, but also he just seems far away whenever he's talking to Kelsier, right? Like he's doing something else, he's focusing on something else, he's thinking about something else, right?
Yes,
So you will come to learn to know more about the shards and what they are as you continue to read.
I
um
figured.
but um he ends up being like free of the well, right? When Vin takes the power and stuff. And
He
he bumps
survives.
into he survives, right?
Well, no,
He does.
are you about to say
I'm
the golden
gonna
boy?
say, well, he fights Hoyd, right? Him and Hoyd get into a tussle. And what I want to point
But
out,
that's
something
during in the
that's
well.
while he's in the well, right?
Because
Hoyd
Hoyt
visits
jumps
him in
in
the
and jumps
well.
his ass.
So Hoyd approaches the well, and Kelsier and him get off to a bad start, right? Because I will say, Kelsier and Hoyd are the same person. So they have conflicting personalities, right?
Oh, oh
They
yes.
have they're not the same person. That's not what I
I
literally
was
meant.
like, what
They
the
have
hell?
you're like,
Big
what?
drop. What?
They have very conflicting personalities because they are both very similar, right? They both
Yes.
like to be very witty and like
Yes.
get the edge on the other person, right? So
And they
they
think they're
immediately
smarter than everybody
clash.
else in the room.
Exactly. They both think they're smarter than each other, right?
Yes.
So they immediately get off to a bad start. Hoyd is like focused on his goal, right? He's like, I need to get through the well. And
Hmm.
Kelsey's like, I'm gonna fucking kick his ass as soon as he gets into the well. So they
Yeah.
obviously tussle. And what I would like to point out is when they fight, I think Hoyd punches him at some point, and he's a little surprised that he is able to hurt him.
Yes.
So there's like a moment of surprise from Hoyd or Saphandrius where he's like, "Oh, I can hurt you." That's a little strange. And I just that's a little bit of a moment. I just want you to remember
Oh, that Hoyt was able to punch Kelsier.
it. That he was surprised that he was able to do it, right?
Okay.
Like
I mean,
he expected not to be able to, right? Not to be able to fight back. So it's a
mhm.
little that's a little something that's significant and might seem small in the moment. But yeah, they
Yeah.
tussle, and Hoyd ends up getting a bead of
The one
a
bead
very
that wasn't
powerful
taken,
metal, right? Yeah. So there were
the
two beads
unnamed
left.
one,
Yeah. Um,
Ellen
it
took
does have
one.
a name. I
I'm
won't say what the
sure.
name is.
I'm sure it'll be in Wax and Wayne that I'll
Yeah,
never freaking get to.
the metal does have a name. I won't say what it was, but that is the same metal that turned Elend into a full-blown Mistborn, a full-blown original power Mistborn,
OG.
right? Yeah, OG Mistborn. So Hoy
OG.
took that, and they didn't show him like swallow it in Secret History, but
But.
but
I mean,
he probably did. He probably did.
Hoyd's
He
just over
probably took that.
here
So I
grabbing
would just like to say
powers.
he he grabbed a bead that turns him into a Mistborn from
He's
Mistborn.
such a silly
He
little guy.
he grabbed a magical staff from Cell.
He's collecting all
Hoyd's
the shit like Infinity Stones.
Hoyd's making a little collection. God, he's such a fun character,
Yeah.
and a mysterious character. Um,
So I will say about Mistborn Secret History,
mhm.
I am happy that Kelsier is alive. Well,
You think it was handled well?
quote unquote, yes.
Because
Um,
That was one of Brandon's like big worries. I think
worries.
was
Yeah,
bringing a character back to life
agreed.
and doing it in a way that didn't feel satisfying.
So I'm actually happy that we talked about this because I was thinking about this earlier. Um,
Hmm.
I think it lends to his character very well because it adds to the martyr aspect of his character. I don't know why I'm like talking like that. It adds to the martyr aspect.
Yes.
It adds to the martyr aspect of him that he fucking survived death.
Right. Yeah. Definitely.
Um,
I mean, yeah. It builds
and
to
I
his ego
think
too.
right.
It
So what
adds
I
to his
think
ego.
so what I think is cool is that it's almost ironic that it's like he thought he was this top shit, he was gonna die, and that it would solve everything,
Yep. And he doesn't.
and it he doesn't, and you do, and you sit there and it's just like, so what was the point?
Hmm.
Because like I thought about it earlier, and I was like, what if he was there post everything else, you know? And so I like that that Kelsier is that character
Hmm.
that's kind of like that, almost like antithesis of that trope of like the sacrifice to save the day. Doesn't always work.
Hmm.
But I assume with this, Brandon is giving good old Kel a bit of a second chance, maybe a bit of a redemption arc. Not that I mean, I guess he's not a bad person, but get a little bit of
People
a
can change. That is a fact. People
give him
can
hey,
change.
give him some semblance. But I mean, as I said in the last podcast, I figured that we were going to get a couple characters from Mistborn that would keep sticking around if they were just going to, he was going to skip ahead in time and then kill off a bunch of other ones. Um, so I'm interested with this one. This was not one of the ones I thought it would be,
Right.
but I do like it, and I do like the interesting hints to the shards and the investiture. I also liked getting a little bit more in depth with Ruin,
Hmm.
especially.
Um, I do want to cut you off a little bit. And so, Secret History is a book that came out much later in the actual life cycle of the Cosmere, right? Secret
Hmm.
History didn't come out until after Bands of Mourning, right? It's not really a book you have to wait until you finish Bands of Mourning. Some people will say so because there's like hints in Bands of Mourning towards it and yada yada yada, whatever, right? Like if a lot of people watch this, some people might be pissed that you read Secret History
Oh,
before
really?
you read Bands of
I mean, it
Mourning.
doesn't give
Yeah,
anything away about Wax and Wayne, though.
I don't think it does. It doesn't really give anything away in the grander scheme of the Cosmere. It just tells you that Kelsier was there during the events and that he is alive,
Which
right?
I do like
Which
a lot.
like people might have been like, I would have preferred you found out he was alive via this way, but
Okay.
regardless,
I
like you
guess
find out
when
he's
we get
alive
there,
no matter what, right?
yeah, I
At the
guess,
end of the day,
yeah,
everybody finds out Kelsier's alive, that he's not
yeah.
dead. But what I like in Kelsier's point of view is that he meets Triss. I think that's her name. I hope I'm
It's
not fucking it up.
Chris, I
Chris.
believe,
Chris. You're right.
and
I'm thinking
Naz.
Tress and Chris. So he meets Chris and Naz, but Chris is the character that writes all of the stuff at the end of all the books. When you get to the end of the book and it says Ars Arcanum,
Yes.
right? And it talks about all the magic and all the sciencey bullshit and all the yada yada.
Yeah.
Chris is the one writing all that, right?
Right.
And she does that for all of these books. because she is a science nerd who likes to study all of these magic systems around the Cosmere, right? So,
Hmm.
what we call those people like Chris, call them world hoppers, right? People
Oh,
who hop around and like to, either study all the worlds or do whatever, right? Chris is a world
yeah.
hopper. She likes to hop around the worlds and, you know, journal all these nerdy things.
Do we
But
know
she,
the original
mhm.
planets that both of them are from?
I know the planet that Chris is from. I don't know about Naz.
So I know where Naz is from.
Oh, do you? I mean, maybe I should. Maybe it's just slipping my
I don't
mind.
know how I found it out. I don't remember where it was.
I'll look it
I
up
didn't.
after
I didn't.
this.
Oh, I mean, I can go ahead and say it.
Just say it then.
He's from
Not like you're gonna
our
spoil me.
good old Threnody.
Oh, that's right. Of course he would be from Threnody. Here's the thing: anybody that can get
Because he
off of
talks about
Threnody,
it in Secret History. He's like, I can't go
mm,
back to that place.
anybody who can get off of Threnody will get off of Threnody, right? I, for anybody who knows, I've told Cullen about the world that Sunlight Man takes place on, and how the sunlight kind of melts everything it touches.
Hmm.
People would
Yeah.
rather live there than Threnody. That's how fucked
Yeah.
up Threnody is. Regardless, he meets
And we'll
Chris,
get
and
more
one
in
of the
depth with
first things,
that in the next
yeah,
episode.
when we talk about Arcane
We have to
Arcana.
hold the
But
Threnody talking.
one of the things that Chris asks Kelsier is like something about, do you know the name Adonalsium? Right? It's a
Oh,
very
yeah.
it's very quick, but Chris asks him, "Do you know Adonalsium?" And Kelsier is like, "What's that mean?" Right? Like, what is that? And so that's kind of a thing that world hoppers use to identify other world hoppers, right?
Okay.
Because if somebody
Oh,
is
it's like
like,
a
"What the
code
it,
sentence? A
kind
password?
of, but it has a significance, right? So
I'm
if
sure.
somebody's like, "What the fuck is Adonalsium?" They don't know much about the Cosmere, right? So I just want you to keep that name in mind.
Okay.
Oop, maybe I shouldn't have said name. Keep the name Adonalsium in mind, right? That is a
What?
big Cosmere thing,
Okay.
um,
Interesting.
that gets alluded to and has to do with the shards, perhaps.
Oh. Well, I do
Anyway,
like Chris and Naz.
yes, I think
I
that
hope to see them again soon.
I definitely think they will continue to appear throughout the Cosmere.
Yeah.
Another thing we can talk about is that like orb that Hoyd gets that gives him the power of preservation briefly.
Oh, yeah.
Like preservation dies and he throws out that orb that he stole from those people. Let's talk about those people. Those people, how were they described, if you remember? Now that you've read
Oh,
Elantris. Yeah.
actually, yes. Yeah.
Wow,
They
that clicked really fast for you.
they seemed a little sus, a little
A little
suspicious,
sus.
a
A
little
little a little gray in the
yeah,
skin, perhaps a little flaky, a
little
little withered
Elantrian,
look to, yeah. A
little
little
filthy
Elantrian.
Elantrian.
Filthy Elantrians too far from home, maybe? A
Yeah,
little
yeah.
gray? A little hungry?
So how did they get there?
Uh yeah,
Just hanging
kind of
out on
cool to see
Scadrial.
like just a set
Scadrial's
of
the planet, right?
Elantrians. Scadrial's the planet, yeah.
It's the Scadrian system. Okay.
Yeah, the Scadrian system, named after the planet Scadrial. The Celish system, named
Oh
after the
yes.
planet Cell. The Rosharan system, it's pretty basic.
Okay. So, but anyways,
Um,
yes, the Elantrians are
well, at
on
least
Scadrial.
for the most part.
Okay.
Yeah, but so look at that. There's just a group of Elantrians hanging out on schedule. It's kind of
Hmm.
weird. Like we see shit like this a lot in the Cosmere, and somebody could be like, "Hey, there's some words of Brandon that talk about that." But listen, man, I don't know. I'm just trying to read these books,
Hmm.
and put it together through that.
Hmm.
Like I can't listen to every words of Brandon and combine it with my knowledge of the books. Like I have to pick one, and I'm picking my knowledge of the books, right? So like with what I remember from all of these goddamn books, like I don't know exactly who these Elantrians are. I mean, I think I have an idea from, like of what group or org they're part of, right?
Oh.
but like not all Elantrians are working together, right? Like just like not all like Scadrians are working together. Like
Yeah, there's
Brandon
obviously
writes
infighting.
more. Brandon writes more complex societies than that, right? Like he wouldn't just
Yes,
be like he
which
wouldn't
I
just be like
appreciate.
it's the orcs versus the like the dwarves,
Elves.
right? Right? No, it's like it's not just the Scadrians versus the
It's
Rosharans. It's like
these Elantrians versus these
right,
Elantrians.
like it's like no, these are these two societies, and they both have their complex intricacies in fighting
Yeah,
and societies in the societies and nations
yeah,
on the planets and all that stuff. So
I like it.
I find that pretty cool. And I just think that's cool, that now that you've read Elantris, it clicked very quickly for you that those guys were
Yeah, I
some
actually until
Elantrians.
you had said that, but I was like, yeah, that's right. They are like kind of gray skinned.
They're like
Yeah.
gray with like patchy and like yeah, they look old and stuff.
Uh-huh.
A little too
Interesting,
far from
interesting.
home. A little ambitious trying to capture the power of a shard.
Maybe
You'll
that
learn about more about what a shard is too in the future. Man, you have
maybe that
so much
helps
good
them.
stuff to learn, and it's all in Stormlight, man.
I'm sure it
That's why I'm
is.
trying to get you to read Stormlight, by the way,
Mm,
because all of the big stuff really is in Stormlight.
gotcha. Well, I mean, since those books are so
Right.
damn
Whether
big,
it be from an epigraph or from like a an interlude, Stormlight
right?
has the info.
I mean, yeah. Like I said, I would assume so since they're so damn big.
Right.
So, but yeah, I mean, I think the secret history thing was needed. I'm sure there's probably some people out there that are like, "How dare you do this?" Um,
Come on, guys. We
I
know
don't
there's no
care that
real
much.
Cosmere reading order. Can't we all be civil about this?
Oh no, I was saying in terms of like bringing Kelsier back.
Oh yeah.
Um,
I don't think. Yeah, yeah.
but
I think he handled that very
I think he
well.
handled it pretty well.
I don't think there's many people that are like, oh, I freaking hate that Kelsier was brought back. Like, I think he did it really well.
Right, because it almost is like he never died in the first place because he helped.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Um,
Fuzz.
so
Fuzz
what was the freaking point of him
and
dying?
Glenn.
So yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah,
So, any closing remarks? We're approaching an hour here, so I think we can like wrap
um,
up our thoughts. We
I
like
want
Elantris. It just doesn't hold up.
yeah,
Especially doesn't hold up to today's level of writing from Brandon.
I
Right.
know.
Stuff like even stuff like Mistborn, which I'm pretty sure he wrote right after,
Yeah, I believe
is
so.
just much better than Elantris. But I'm
Yeah,
glad that Elantris was published because we may have never gotten a Cosmere without Elantris. So
right.
it,
And then we're gonna
it
get more
gave us
Elantris
stuff
in the
like
future.
Mistborn and yeah.
So
So
closing
it's gonna
statements. I want more Shy.
do you?
I do. I hope she comes back. I don't know if she's gonna maybe come back in the next. Well, your face says not what I was gonna say. Um,
we'll,
I
we'll,
hope that she comes back in the later Elantris books that he's working on.
mm,
That being said, your face screams that she does show up again somewhere else.
you'll have a while. If that
I
dashes your hopes, you'll have a while.
have a while for a million things in this damn series. Great. But I want to see some more Shy. I'm sure I'm going to see some more Kelsier, and I am happy about that. And
Big
I have
Kelsier
a million
fanboy over here.
thoughts. I am. What are you not?
No, I like him. I like him.
Oh, likes him.
He's all right, I guess. I think he's a fine character.
Such a nerd, dude. But
Anyway,
yes, it'll be very interesting to kind of see where it all goes. I think we kind of went over all of our theories. So yeah.
yeah, I think we did. All right,
But
what are we going to talk about next time?
so next episode, because I've actually, since the Mistborn thing and our insane schedule for this podcast, we finally come to a better plan for it. In that time, I've read like 2 books.
He's
Well, not
he's
2
read a few
books,
things.
but a few things Cosmere related. So next episode we're going to be talking about Tress. And since we were able to kind of combine some extra stuff in this one, we're going to do Tress and Six of Dusk, Shadows of Silence, and the Force of Hell.
Long ass title.
Um, I think those are the main ones. Because White
I
Sand
don't think
only
we'll.
has like
I don't think we'll talk about White
White
Sand.
Sand, yeah.
Because neither of us have read the novelization, or we've both read the novelization. We have not read the actual comic, right?
Well, and it's not even
So
the full thing in the Ars
right,
Arcanum.
yeah.
So,
So
so
I
Tress.
think he's actually working on a full novelization for White
Oh, that'll
Sand.
be cool.
But both of us will wait to talk about White Sand until we read. I think we're both planning on getting the omnibus for it at some point.
At some
So
point,
until we both read that, won't be talking about White Sand. But White Sand's a really cool planet.
yes,
But Threnody, Six of Dusk, we'll be talking about.
and
Um,
Tress, which I
Triss.
loved.
You did like Triss. I'm
So
excited to
we are
talk
going to
about
talk.
Triss.
I'm excited to talk about that one. So yes, thank you guys for watching.
Thank you.
Let us know any more of your Cosmere theories in the comments. Luke will read them. I won't.
Let us know. I will
And
read them. Please call me
yeah,
stupid. Tell me things that I got wrong or don't know.
laugh at mine. Laugh at me
Yeah,
not knowing.
laugh at his theories.
Oh, if when we do
Yeah.
talk about things in Ars Arcanum, we won't be talking about Allomancer Jack. That's the only thing I haven't read, but that's obvious
Mm.
because I haven't gone to
Yeah, we can talk a
Alley.
little bit about like the 11th metal and stuff.
Oh yes, we can talk about that too,
Mhm.
but that'll be quick.
Yeah.
So yes, so we will see you guys in the next podcast for Tress.
All right.